You, Aisha, and thank you, Najma ma'am, for letting me use your platform to share my journey here. So, hello and good evening to everyone. I'm Ranjitha, and thanks for joining in. I'm about to share a very personal story here about embracing my son's autism. As you all know, that he's autistic and he also has apraxia of speech, and how I found ways to support him and help him in his journey. I hope this offers a lot of insight to many parents. And I would also like to say that the main key takeaways which I want the parents to have from this webinar is my transformative journey as a compliance-based parent to a more neuro-affirming parent, and I how I presume competence in my child and learning from my mistakes. I made mistakes. I'm ready to accept it today, and I'm a better person for that. And how I started advocating for my child, and I also in the throughout the journey, I also suffered a lot of mental health issues, and how I took care of myself in the um, in the course of the journey, and also keeping my family together through all the insane situations which we went through, and and how we chose happiness. So this is the main key takeaway which I would like parents to benefit from this webinar. So I'm going to share our lived experience as an autism family. Next slide, please. So this is Shashwath now. He is 16 years old. He is minimally speaking. He does have speech, but he speaks in monosyllables. And he also uses his AAC, the augmentative and assistive device for communication. And at present, he is doing his OBE level exams through the NIS. So we've not let go of the education goal also. We are keeping that also in mind, in spite of all the challenges he has faced. And he's a music lover, and you would see him always with his headphones on. So he's listening to all genres of music, and he loves to self-regulate through music. And he practices yoga, and he's a very movement-seeking child. So he loves all activities to calm himself down. And he is now presently self-advocates for himself. He expresses his needs. Though he's minimally speaking, I myself am very surprised when I hear him expressing what he wants, and there are ideas which I would not even have thought of. He's able to express through the AC and also verbally. So this is what I'd like to speak about Shashwat. Can we have the next slide, please? Here, I'd like to talk about this is Shashwat's picture when he was just a 10-month-old baby. He was very chubby and cheerful baby. At times when he was free from colic pain and stomach cramps, he was always smiling. And this infancy stage was the stage where he would cry incessantly in the night because of colic pain. And this was also the stage where he was hospitalized as an infant, just a month old, and was in the NICU for almost 5, 6 days. And the gut issue started after that. And the snapshots do tell you that he's a very happy baby, but there were times when he was really dysregulated because of the stomach issues. And I also contacted his pediatrician for vaccination. So I pointed out quite early when he was just a 6-month-old baby. And just when he turned 10, I thought I should tell the doctor that he's having a poor eye contact. So she referred us to an audiologist, and the BERA, the usual diagnosis part, which we all go through, that happened. And here you can see in the picture here down that he's just sitting with his sister. So this was in Dehradun. He was born in Vapi. We had already seen a transfer here. And this is by the age of 2, we shifted to another city. Next slide, please. See, this is like, I would like to talk about the transfers we had, and how difficult it was. My husband's actually working in the banking sector. So transfers were something that used to happen even before Shashwat was born. But having a neurodivergent child and facing transfer, and this time we faced a transfer right after we got the diagnosis. So it was a very difficult time because change of place is very unsettling. You have to find the essentials, a place to shop, play the house, everything. On top of it, I had to find the doctors who could support and guide me. So I had a major lack of support right after the diagnosis because it was a new city, and I myself was going through a lot of challenges. Have accepting the diagnosis and not knowing where to start from. So this point was where I was very alone and misinformed. This is like good 14 years back. So you can imagine no groups, no support groups, no parent groups or anybody to help you or guide you in the. So whoever the professionals I met also misguided me and told me till he will grow out of it. That was the kind of uh, thing people used to talk about autism. He'll grow and he'll start speaking. He's a late speaker. So as a parent, you would want to believe that. And that is where I felt that something was amiss. But I kept on trying, searching for the correct therapy. And there was no one to guide. So I decided to create a structure of my own. So here in the next slide is like the lack of transfer. Here I like to discuss about the clip I'm sharing. This started, the therapy which I started with him was when he was just 3.5 years old. In this clip, you would see that he's only 3.5 years old. And I started not knowing how to teach him. So I started recording these videos, not for sharing anywhere, but for learning and improvising because I was totally in the blind when I was teaching him. And I am more of a person who was expecting obedience from a child because that is the way we were all taught. So it was more compliance based, and I did not know the effect it would have on him as he grew up. But this is where you can play the video now. He's placing the blocks on demand where I'm asking him to and announcing the shapes, trying to get his joint attention. Though he's keeping, he wants to move around and he's playing with his feet. He's like seeking sensory over here. I'm trying to ask him to sit down. So but he does I do have get manage to get his joint attention. He's paying attention to what I'm saying and complying. So this was more compliance based therapy when I started 14 years ago. Yeah, you can
Sorry
have the
to
next
cut
slide.
you off.
Yeah,
Right. Is there any audio to this?
there was an audio. I don't know, it was audible
Right.
some time
Arsha,
ago.
if you unmute yourself, we can hear the audio as well.
I'll just play it again.
Yeah, yeah, this one. Audio is not. It's still not audible. Yeah, just before we shift to the next slide, I'd like to tell just a second, Aisha. Just pause
Yeah.
this. So in that slide, I was actually speaking in Hindi. That is another thing which I started off. We are actually Tamil speaking people. I had to switch to another language to help my child carry on. We were in the Hindi heartland. We were in Uttarakhand at that time because of the transfer. So I had to teach him Hindi. He's actually understanding the language and following my instruction at that point, but I was more towards compliance based teaching because I did not know the difference between compliance based and a more child led kind of a therapy because of not having the information or the education from the correct sources at that point. So here, what I started before you play the video, I'd like to tell about how I started creating a structure and routine. One thing I knew, even if I did not have people guiding, I knew that I needed to create a structure for him to progress. So this, with whatever little things I knew, I started doing yoga. He started yoga when he was just 4. That's like full hands-on prompt. Here also you'll see that I'm doing with a hands-on prompting, because at that point his muscles were not strong enough to balance his body, but he's learning to balance. So it became a very big part of our routine. I also followed a sensory diet. Sensory diet is based on the child's sensory profile. I incorporated a lot of sensory activities. He's a sensory seeker. He wants a lot of texture rubbing and massage and the movement, ball, jumping on the ball. So those were the sensory diet I started including in his. I had an autist working with me. So I learned the better part of like the sensory part and how to incorporate the physical part, the physical exercises that I structured during those initial years where I had no idea how to follow. He was still in school by the time this video I've taken. He's in school, but these activities I would do at home. You can play the video. Here he's trying to learn to balance. Now he can do it alone. We both do the yoga together. But this at this stage, I'm giving him support how to do it. So here also you can see I'm trying to get him to comply with me. So I have had a big change in my attitude towards getting him to do things. We can have the next slide, please. Yeah. Uh, where this before I start this slide, I'll say that ki when I said ki Shashwath is 7 years old, I also started a specific diet for Shashwath that's called a GFCF diet, a gluten-free, casein-free diet. So this diet actually was started after some allergy tests were done. They were inconclusive. He was not a celiac or having anything that pointed towards that. Initial slides, I had told that he was a colic baby and he cried incessantly in the night. So to stop his crying and falling sick with gut issues, I started a diet when he was 4. And that diet I continued till he was 12. I could not step out of the diet. It was like a trap. I'm not here trying to blame any diet. I would take the blame on myself because I got into the diet thinking it would help him and I did not know how to stop. Now, in this part, I would also like to say about this slide. This slide here, you can see the first picture on top is my daughter holding her brother when he was just a few days old. She wanted to hold her brother. So I had to oblige, and he was just 10 days old. So I was a little scared, but I got captured the correct moment where he's trying to say something to her. And it was a very beautiful moment. And the picture down there was taken last year where they're both grown up. So what I did is having a child, elder sibling to him, what I thought my duty as a parent was to educate her about autism. It's very important to keep your other child also in the loop, educate them about the changes that can happen in their life. It's very difficult for them to comprehend, but you have to keep at it every day. And because it is very something that happened overnight, my priorities changed where I used to rush to therapies and I had to hand over my daughter to my in-laws or take some help of some friends to take her to her hobby classes. So it was very difficult of a transition for me. So I could only imagine how much of uh, it was traumatic for my daughter. So I prepared her, and this diet caused such a big rift between the two because I would separately cook meals for my son and for my daughter. She would have everything under the sun, and he was on a restrictive diet. So it used to like I used to like feel very much at strife. What am I doing? At one end I'm feeling I'm denying so much to my son, and at one end I'm feeling I'm not paying much attention to her. So this was a very difficult phase, but I found out strategies how I would pay individual attention. If I'm teaching her, I would take care that my husband is keeping my son engaged or taking him out for walks. Where she had exams, where I would be sitting with her and helping her. And we also made a pact that one of the parent will take her out for some kind of eating out dates or somewhere where we are paying some attention and it's out of the chaos in the house. The initial years are chaotic when you have two children with their diverse needs and you have to pay attention to both of them. Both of them feel that all the time the attention is divided. So we made it a pact that once in a while, either one of us will take her out and we spend time with her. She still has a lot of complaints that we didn't spend much time, but we did the best at that possible time. Whatever we thought was correct, we did share our time between the two children. Now they both share a very beautiful bond. They do fight like the typical siblings. They fight for things, the food, everything they fight for. But his sister has turned out to be his strongest advocate. She is the one fighting for everything he needs. And how can you talk like that to him? She comes talking and fighting with us. So that is the bond I managed to create in between all these years of struggle. Next slide, please. Here, I would like to say that meltdowns and shutdowns, I think every parent has an idea about how meltdowns and shutdowns happen. Meltdowns basically occur due to the internal conflict or some external stimuli causes the child to feel very much at unease, which is why they end up and they don't have it in their control to stop. It's not a kind of a tantrum. You all know that. But Shashwath had frequent meltdowns due to food since infancy. So he would have intolerance to food, which would end up with colic pain and severe dysregulation and self-harm episodes would happen. So I had to have a doctor helping me out to handle the colic pain part. And as he started growing up, these meltdowns started into emotional dysregulation. Why? Because he did not have access to speech. He was still, till the age of 12, he was self-expression was not there, speech through speech. He would understand receptive speech was there, but he would only mimic if I speak, he would speak with me. So I could not get him to express what he felt. So the emotional dysregulation led to meltdowns. So what was my strategy during meltdowns is basically keep him in a safe space, take him out of a place where he could harm himself. And sometimes the meltdowns happened in public places also. There you have to stand ground. If you have a family with you, you keep your foot down, and if somebody comes to you, just ask them to back off. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks at that point. Your child's health is very important, and whatever you need, you give the child something to regulate themselves and take them to a safe space. So that is what was my strategy during meltdowns. You cannot time them because it was colic. It could happen for him anytime. Emotional dysregulation also started happening when he started growing older. Shutdowns happened was something like where the child pauses. Shutdowns look totally opposite of meltdowns. The child is like totally, it's an internal strife. He pauses and you know that he just stops his activities and you know he's trying to cope with anxiety because pre-pubertal stage this started happening where he would just stop everything and you will find that it would if not taken care that would also lead to a meltdown because he would not be able to handle the stress of it. So this was actually a coping mechanism where the shutdowns would happen. I would actually reduce the demands on it. If this happens more times in a day, totally I would stop all the therapies and give him the time to regulate himself, give him more free time, things he likes to do, so that if those things help him to regulate, that means the anxiety is the root cause. So that is how, because a child who's not able to speak and is able to minimally only address or speak out what he's feeling. So I had these strategies in place so that I could give him some space to feel calmer. So that was how I handled the shutdowns and meltdowns. Next slide, please. See, this is like self-regulation after the meltdowns, and I learned about self-regulation from Najma ma'am here only. I was first time hearing it when he turned 12. So quite a long time I took to learn. This is like because Shashwath is now 16. We learned it when he was 12. So about self-regulation because we met Najma ma'am at the time when he was at the peak of dysregulation. So teaching him self-regulation skills did take time, but I did have these strategies. You can see in the first picture over there. I started creating these. He loved soft toys and the fluffy pillows. So I had this pool also. Pool I would give him for playing in the water. Water play also I would give him with all the balls and whatever toys he would take. So that water play, I would also use it as a cordoned off space for him to create a sensory play area. because here he is only 5 years old. The first picture taught me. So that was the thing I would give him with all the soft toys and all that. And down here, one picture of a swing you can see. This is a swing I found out with the rod fixed between the. It happened to be a jackpot for us because it helped him regulate himself like anything. Every time he would say that I'm dysregulated, I would give him the headphones and phone, and he would go and spend hours inside the swing. That rod also helped him to do the hanging. That's a shoulder exercise, and he loves hanging by it. So you can see on the top right corner there is he's hanging by that rod. And we also went into music therapy where he learned the djembe and the keyboard as a way of learning a hobby. We did not go into music therapy to learn instruments, but it was a byproduct of it. Basically, it helped him to feel calmer and how to handle the stress and learning to breathe. And music therapy was more intended to learn as uh, just like adults go into therapy. I thought music therapy was supposed to help him find ways to calm himself. So therapy for me was therapy only. It was not a music class or something. But we happened to find that he liked the beats and the rhythm, and he would learn the beats. So that happened as a byproduct where he did this, and we also found that he learned. He was very happy in the sports class. He would ask, like, enjoy his time with the sports sessions. So here we took some time to teach him how to self-regulate and keep introducing the vocabulary of self-regulation. Took some time for him to understand through the AAC, through different ways. It was all taught. And co-regulation here, I would like to emphasize on. Co-regulation means staying calm when your child is going through a meltdown. It is very important that we don't lose our calm when a child is going through a difficult phase. We have to keep ourselves in the situation, be very mindful of our language, speak less, not ask questions, and be that safe environment or safe space for them to maybe go through the dysregulation. So that gives them. So a calm parent will always give the child a safe space to find a way towards self-regulation. So this is where co-regulation, I think parents should pay attention. I did not know that for a longest time. So I would also get very agitated. That would add up and the meltdown would just snowball into a very big situation where all of us are dysregulated by the end of it and it'll take hours to come back. So being regulated and the co-regulation part was something I learned through the years. It takes a lot of effort because it's not easy to stay very calm when your child is trying to hit you or self harm or throw things. So it's very important that you know your child is going through a tough time and you need to be there for them. So this is what I learned through the journey, but it is an important skill I believe every parent, and I would emphasize that every parent learns that co-regulation is something we should all learn. The next slide, please. Here we move towards self advocacy. Self advocacy only comes when we have taught the child self regulation. The child has to be self regulated. Self advocacy is nothing but asking for their own needs and being able to, through some way of communicating what they need and what is their choice, being able to choose even everyday things. That is called autonomy, and self advocacy is where they are telling that I don't want to do this. Giving the choice of saying a no is very important. If they are verbal, non-verbal, doesn't matter. Give them the respect of every child should be given the choice to decide not to attend something or some class. Where you give them the choice, that is where you're teaching them self advocacy. They will turn into adults who will speak up for themselves and not know. Compliance based is this is where the transformation happened, where I started giving him choices and giving him autonomy to decide what he wants to do. Simple decisions which start with his own toys, what he wants to do, give him choice, two, three choices, and then he feels more in control of his situation. So this is where the part where he feels more in control of his life and respecting and holding his dignity. This is what acceptance was actually giving dignity to the child and respecting him, whether he's verbal, non verbal, no labels. Nothing. He's my child and he needs to be respected as a human being, and his needs come first, and his self-regulation and peace comes first. So that is where I learned to move from a expecting obedience to learning to let him be. So this is where the self-advocacy part happened. Next slide, please. So here I would like to talk about, it's not that I didn't try in academics. This is the first picture on top is where he's in the play school. This is the time when he would not sleep at night. Every day morning he would be cranky and carry some toy. He's having a banana toy there. And he would go to the school and there he would sleep off. In the play school he would be sleeping, and he would when he gets up he would like insist on having snacks like and get very cranky. And then we also sent him to all the mainstream schools. I would not blame anybody, but our systems were also very much we were finding it very difficult to help him adjust in the school. We sent him there only for social interaction because he was, even with the shadow, he was not able to settle into the school because of the sensory challenges. Plus, he was non-verbal, and he would be taunted. He understood everything. That increased the anxiety for him. And we couldn't find a special educator. We were in a small second tier city at that time. We had no idea what special education means. We had no idea what special education entailed, what was the things to expect. Schools added to his anxiety, and we only had an occupational therapist who pitched in as a speech therapist as well as special educator, but it ended up in a mess. So for us, we wasted a lot of time depending on just one therapist. So it's a big red flag when you see the progress not happening and somebody asking you at the end of 5, 6 years that you be realistic. So that was what happened with us. I have had the heart to forgive what happened and move on. But this amounted to a lot of the progress got delayed because in the academics because of lot of such issues. I was also in this slide I'd like to mention before we move on to the next one. I was asked to put him on medication. I have nothing against medications, but the doctors I went to put him on medications which led to severe rashes on his body. He would have traumatic injuries where he would itch his throat by putting his finger in his throat, and he would have big ulcers. And I went asking, why is there like so much of reaction? They increased the dosage instead of listening to me. They said it can't be. Such things can't, and they prescribed antihistamines at that point. So it was a very difficult decision and a difficult point where I took help of another doctor to wean him off these medicines. This happened when he was just 10. I put him for the medications when he was 10, thinking that it will help him fit into the school system. This was like my therapist pressurized me to give him medication because he was not able to fit in. So, and mind it, he was also on that diet in this phase. That also didn't help his hyperactivity. It was still a major deterrent for him to be included in parties and stuff. But at this point, when he started having these rashes, I took the help of another doctor, another neurologist, and stopped all the medications. What happened was he ended up with sleep disturbances and he went into OCDs to cope with the anxiety. When the medicines were stopped, he went into 7 months of sleeplessness. Both of us would sit through the night where he would have repetitive behaviors to cope with it. So these OCDs, I would like to point out, were basically a coping mechanism. Most of the children on the autism spectrum do have OCDs, but these repetitive behaviors always come as a coping mechanism. They don't per se stay on the same definition of a OCD, which you would find as a clinical definition. This was more so of a coping mechanism which we had, which he had at that time. So this was all what happened after the schooling challenges. So this happened during the corona time. So at that point, 3 years we took, 2 years full, the medication caused trouble. Then another 3 years we took time to recover. He also had reflux disease, the gastroesophageal reflux, where he would vomit. He would eat food, it will burn in the food will burn in his stomach. He'll drink a lot of water and vomit. So this happened in this phase where we lost good 5 years. The schooling and the academics were something which we didn't want to touch at all because we were in survival mode at this point. Now, I will, in the next slide, discuss about how not having a special educator and having knowledge about special education affected him. Next slide, please. See, I'd like to emphasize here how a special educator, whether your child is verbal or non-verbal, or just a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, how important a special educator is in the child, in a neurodivergent child's life, is something I would like to know is unadapted curriculum, and where you're expecting a child to write when they are just around 4 or 5 is totally a wrong approach. And a general ed might push you into that, but having a special educator might help you understand that the curriculum needs to be adapted and you need to work on a lot of skills before the child goes into writing or any other academic skills. So pre-academic concepts have to be taught, and a special educator is the best person who can lead your child and make your child ready for school. So you need special education as early as when the child is 3 or 4. It doesn't matter whether your child can speak or express. You have other ways. The special educator will have ways. There are letter boards. There are so many other low-tech methods where you can get an extract an answer. Non-speaking does not mean non-thinking, does not mean they don't have intelligence. You have access and you need to change your ways. It is how the educator changes the techniques to reach there. So with limited know-how, I proceeded. So it affected my child's progress because I was more on prompt dependency. So lack of guidance to make the child independent. So when you have a flawed technique of teaching your child, where you are taught that the child has to have a hand prompt and he can never write on his own. This was what was told to me. And I was very naive and I believed, and I was with one therapist and I kept on giving him hand prompt. And a lot of issues came up after that. Please let's have the next slide. Here you would say that I started with hands-on prompt, then still I would touch him because he was so underconfident to write anything. The child's confidence took a dip. He would not be able to, even today I have this problem, that he would find it difficult without me sitting across him. He would not be able to write. He still has confidence issues here. And learning is easy, but unlearning something is very difficult. When a child is taught a particular way, when you have to unlearn it and relearn, that process becomes very, very difficult. So this is what Shashwath had to face. That one picture where on top is where I'm giving him prompt. This was when we had the previous therapist. The second picture here is when I started a special educator's help, and he started writing his name all alone sitting on a whiteboard. That was an achievement for me because he started writing and he didn't need me to be around him. So that was an achievement for me. I never thought he will be able to do that. So with the right support, you can always move forward. And most of the progress which Shashwath has had is in the last 4 years. Let me put that also in perspective. That the last 4 years have been very, like, it has been a big life-changing kind of therapies he's had. So this is where I'm talking about learning and unlearning. Is how difficult it is. And knowledge of prompt hierarchy. Every parent should be aware of where your child is in the prompt hierarchy and where you should move if you want your child to have independence. Now, self-expression can be through different ways. It need not always be through writing. There is typing, there are low-tech ways to teach. If your child is struggling with writing, why not teach them early with some other way where they can tell what they are thinking? So I feel that the self-expression was something that was not emphasized on, and the prompts were given too much importance where I got stuck. So prompt dependency was something that made us get stuck. The next slide, please. So this is where the prompt hierarchy is. Always we have to move from physical prompts to little. So this weaning off has to be something that is always taught by a special educator, can guide you. You need to have a specialist who is dealing with it. This prompt was there in speech for him, in the physical activities, in the OT part, in every part. He was prompt dependent all over. So now we are slowly moving towards the verbal and the visual part, where he is following instructions based on if I tell him. So that independence will improve only when you start moving higher up. If you're stuck at one place, it's time to question your therapist, what is happening and how do I move my child? So this is what something I want the parents to know, That first part is about fully physical prompt where you're giving hands-on prompt. Even if the child is jumping, you're giving them hands-on. Second step is you're just giving them a little push. Third is you're modeling. If you're talking also, you're giving a modeling way. You're not expecting them to do it, but you're just giving them a modeling. And if you're writing also, you're showing this is the way. And the child should be at that stage able to copy. In writing, it comes to copying stage. And gestural also, you're just indicating the child's struggles. You're just giving them. And verbal is when the child is able to follow your verbal instruction and write what you're saying and maybe speak back to you. So that is where it is about verbal prompts. And visual is the next last stage where the child is more independent. So you are supposed to move up the ladder in prompt hierarchy. This is something I did not know as a parent, and this made us to lose a lot of time in many years. Had I known this, I would have also tried to move, but getting stuck in the physical and partial physical and hands on me. So that was very difficult for us to let go of. Next slide, please. Now, this is where this was another thing that we had a difficulty in is though we found the diagnosis of autism quite early. I did not have a diagnosis for apraxia, though I visited so many speech therapists. Najma ma'am here was the one who found out that Shashwath has apraxia of speech. And that was so difficult for me to accept because I thought he's verbal and he cannot have apraxia. What is apraxia also, I didn't know at that point. And he turned 12. And whatever the AAC journey and whatever self-expression, the autonomy was achieved is in these 4 years. So there is no time to start the AAC. This is what one thing I'd like to say. But the diagnosis was very difficult for me to accept but because he was 12 when the diagnosis came. And there was no expressive speech. I had to give him a prompt. I'd say, ki, khana khaoge? I was teaching him Hindi at that time. Then he'll say, khana khaoge. He will repeat. He had speech, but he had no expressive speech. Something that comes from him should be what he wants. So that was not there till the age of 12. He had inconsistent pronunciations. So that's a very big sign of apraxia where he says, if he says papa once, he will say papa or he'll say pup. So those inconsistencies used to make me feel, why is he not saying it the same way? While reading also, he will read it very differently each time. So I thought he is not understanding, that is why he's not able to say. So it was apraxia all along. So at that point, not having any more to communicate was a reason for getting frustrated for him. So here we started introducing the AAC. Next slide. Acceptance of the device to communicate. You can just imagine a 12-year-old and a mother running behind with a device. It was very awkward. And I myself took many months to accept, but then it happened eventually. But it did change our life. We also made it a point to buy a device and use it exclusively for AAC. That was told you need a very trained and educated, proper speech language pathologist to guide you with the using a device if you need it. I'd always suggest if your child has any difficulty, even if he is echolaliac or any child is echolaliac, you should consult a speech language pathologist so that the child can move forward. Here, I use the AAC as an exclusive device, and also it was like difficult in the beginning, but we started seeing that his verbalization improved. It is not that he's always using the device. It's a myth that the AAC will inhibit the speech. It, in fact, helped him learn the words because the device was at his disposal. He would learn the words, keep playing with it, and learn the pronunciations on his own. Though the pronunciations were not always correct, but we would hear him say the words to get his communication across. And we also learned in the process to honor any form of communication from him. Because anything that comes from the child is being said as a way of what he wants. It's an expression of his self. So that we learn to respect, and I changed my mindset that this is how it should be. I let go of that particular picture in my mind that my child should speak. Communication, that is speech, is only communication. That I had to drop. I dropped all my judgments. It was a difficult thing to accept in the beginning, but I did work on myself and start accepting. That acceptance helped my child move forward in his AAC journey. Next slide, please. See here, the AAC we worked well We also started working on the ADL skills quite early because I had an occupational therapist with me. So occupational therapist did her job well. She started teaching him all the self dressing part, grooming, toileting, and bathing, brushing, everything we started. And all those were work in progress for quite some time. Life skills like cooking. Here you can see that he's actually making rotis. This was one time where he made the lunch for all of us. He made around 13, 14 rotis. He just went and he made all maps, but still he did it on his own to help me prepare the lunch. So this was an achievement where he is overcoming his sensory issue. Though he's a sensory seeker, there are certain sensory textures which he doesn't like, but he still overcame that and he made that roti that day. So I really am very proud of him for doing that. We also taught him to dry the clothes. We also taught him to fold his clothes and keep them in the place. He would also keep other people's clothes. He knows where it is kept. So switching on the washing machine and small simple meal for himself. In the next two slides, you would see that he's one place he's drying the clothes after taking it out of the washing machine, and then second one he would also see that he's cooking his favorite potato poha. Can we have the next slide? This is where he's cooking. I'm there. He's a little fidgety, so I'm a little scared about him handling the gas all alone. But he's deciding on the ingredients and how to put it.
Mix it up properly. Careful, hold the handle. From that side you have to mix now. Okay. Now we switch it off and you transfer it into a bowl for yourself. Transfer करोगे. तरफ रखो.
Here he's helping himself eat. I think there was one more slide which you had, Acha, that got cut off. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. We can go into the next one. So this is about the puberty stage. So as you all know, Shashwath is 16 now. So I did start teaching him about the changes and I used the AAC. Here I did use the visuals and I did use some books, social stories to prepare him at the pre-pubertal stage itself about the changes in his body and how the feelings of frustration, anger. So all these were taught with visuals. It's very important to prepare your child because this stage is the stage where they go through so much of emotions. So you need to be there for them and understand the anger issues which they have. And I use customized AC folders. I created them, which I'll be sharing at the end as resources for parents who use Avaz. And if need be, there are some other visuals like the Project Raksha, which was a webinar done by Starwalkers some months ago, which also has some great resources, which is again teaching the children about the correct behaviors, about the public places and the private places, and what acts can be done, what are acceptable, what are not acceptable. Reiterating these concepts I did before while I was preparing him for the puberty stage. And I took care that he can ask for privacy. And I also made sure that no shame or stigma is attached to the feelings he has as a growing up teenager. Like we would respect any other teenager, I made it a point that he has his alone time and he can ask for privacy and ask for people to leave when he wants the privacy. So this was one thing. If he started verbalizing, asking, or if you're not able to understand, he would use his AAC to tell people that I need privacy. So this was very important because this behavior and the correct behaviors have to be taught so that we don't have to do corrective behaviors after the child has reached one stage where you find that there are behaviors which are not appropriate in public places or in front of others. So this can be taught. It's still work in progress, but it can be taught quite early. And please use resources, use visuals so that your neurodivergent child has access and understands and there is no shame. It was a squirmy topic for me to start with. I did the teaching. I asked my husband, he was a little apprehensive about it, but I thought somebody has to do it. So I decided to sit down. I made visuals, I made AAC folders and taught this to him. And believe me, it really came helpful. And I still use it at times where there are slip ups, and I tell him, "Hey, this is what is expected," so that the concept is reiterated and he understands. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Ben. Honey. No, honey.
Now, in this point, where I would like to tell is Going through all this, what happens is a burnout. Handling so much does lead to caregivers burnout. And why reach that stage of burnout? Why not address it before? Why do we have to have a point of mental breakdown to address the mental issues? Why not start early and understand? For that, I would like to emphasize here is that you need to, as a parent, uh, where you're going through so much planning therapies, taking your child out for different things, you somehow you do kind of reach a stage where you forget your needs. So that is very natural that you end up with a burnout, and it happened for me. And how do you realize when you are reaching towards burnout? Major things that point towards is sleep disturbance. You have sleep disturbances. You have unexplained racing heartbeats. That's anxiety. It happened for me, and I thought I'm having a heart attack. I rushed to a cardiologist, and he told me my heart is all okay. It's just anxiety. And I was sent to, he said, you take therapy. I said, I'm already into therapy. So, racing heartbeat is a point where you are, your mind is your mind is always on the lookout for how to manage things. So this leads to a burnout, fatigue, and exhaustion that happens, and also negative loop of thoughts keep happening in the night. Sleep disturbances happen to it, right? And you also binge watch things to avoid what you're feeling. The PTSD symptoms which I had the was due to the sleeplessness and the meltdowns and the OCD phases where Shashwat had. So even the smallest amount of repetitive behaviors would just send me into the mode where I'm all scared that it would all repeat. So the anxiety and irritability, snappiness, which you are snapping at everybody at very simple stressors also just put you off. This is the point where you need to reach out for help for regarding your mental health. Pay attention before you reach a mental breakdown. So the next slide, please. Here, I'd like to say that how did I cope? I went into therapy. I took a me time. I would get up early in the morning and not touch my phone, just do some meditation and read anything or listen to podcasts so that I can kind of recharge every day. It's like a battery recharge. If I don't have any power in me to handle the day, I find it very difficult and I'm very snappy by the end of the day. I used to have regular burnouts, and to the point that I also took medication. I'm still on medications for handling my anxiety. I worked on my mindset every day where I have to see the best possible outcomes at the same time, be ready to accept anything that happens. So that was the mindset I worked on, and to also rediscover your interest as a person, not just as a parent. That's very important. And I took solo outstation trips. You have to create your own support system so that you can do, if not solo outstation trips, at least on a weekly basis or a regular basis, take time out for yourself and be alone or do something with your favorite people other than the family. So that is very important to unwind. So this is how I cope through the years. The next slide is about how we accepted and what is the thriving and choosing to stay happy. So this is how we actually started, where we let Shashwat be. We don't stop his stims. If he starts stimming too much, we know that he's dysregulated, or we give him the place where he can safely be there and regulate himself. We embraced his autism as a strength and not as a weakness, and we always worked on his strength and let him do things at his pace. There is no rush, there is no race. We go at the pace he chooses. And living life happily is a choice, and we take each day as it comes. We don't put any time frames and timelines. We take each day as it comes. So this is what, like, we chose to stay happy in spite of everything. The next slide is, I think, Shashwat's clip. This is like a few snapshots of our happy times. Last year, we went for an outstation trip to Jaipur. Then we always make it a point to celebrate as a family. And Shashwat eating in a restaurant. We stopped the diet when he was 12. So now he enjoys every kind of food in the restaurants, and we take him. He loves going to the restaurant. And we chose happiness. It doesn't matter, everything happens, but we choose happiness every day. Next slide, please. This is his day-to-day activities, just a glimpse of his day-to-day activities.
Oh, we are high. Once in I know some over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Someday wish upon a star with clouds of far behind me, where trouble builds like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, no somewhere over rainbow, bluebirds fly. Oh, why, well, I see trees.
And the next slide is also a clip which where we went out as a family and enjoying the trampoline park. That is his sister and him jumping in the trampoline park. And it's just that we chose to stay as a family and going through whatever and choosing happiness. It doesn't matter what, if we go through meltdowns, we take it as a family, we don't let it affect us. So that's about it. And in the end, it's about the resources which I have shared. This will be shared with everyone. Some Google Sheets for planning therapies and activities, and also some resources for parents who are starting out. And one is the top one is the Avas folders for parents who can just download those Avas folders onto your Avas app. And they are like customized ones which I had created for him for literacy as well as for social stories and puberty. Calming down kit is like how to help your child settle down, and if the child has a meltdown, what you can have handy. So these are the resources which will be shared. I think I'm ready for the questions now.
Wow, it was really great. I think a lot to learn and a lot to understand. I'm sure the parents have a lot of questions. We do have a few in the chat. So people want to know, like, what are the prompts that you are talking about? I mean, how can you explain the prompt hierarchy?
It's like I'm no expert. I'm just a parent like you all. So I learned it through the therapist only that key first prompt is always physical prompt. And second, you just start moving to partially physical, where you start weaning off. So it's a scaffolding method where it's like a building having a scaffolding, like you have those wooden structures when you do the concrete, just like that. When it is removed, the building should hold on its own. So it's like that you must be ready to wean off the support you're giving. So prompt hierarchy is where you, from the physical towards a more, where you are visually giving a cue to the child. They move from fully physical to partially physical and gestural, then you're giving verbal, and then it goes into a modeling, and then a verbal, and then visual. So there you're moving towards more independence. The more you are in the down phase, that is where you're invasive and you're giving too much of dependence to the child, and the child becomes always dependent on you, and the independence will take longer.
Right. So I think that point is clear for the parents and hope they have understood it better. And the next question we have here is like, what age did you start the music therapy for Shashwat?
Music therapy also I started when he was just around, I think, 14. And everything I started very late because I got online therapists. As I said, we were, because of the transfers, we could not get physical level. We did not get so much of support in the therapy. So when Corona happened, I found that through Starwalkers platform only I found the music therapist. And as I said, I went into music therapy trying to teach him to self-regulate. I did not have the intention to teach him a instrument, any instrument, and it just happened along the way. And we found that he's more rhythmic. So we found that rhythm and music, and he plays such songs which are like Elvis Presley songs. And like he found his way of listening and playing and enjoying. So that we found, and music therapy was provided by Star Walkers only. So that I started, and I think it's a very great opportunity which I got. Maybe I would not have thought of it, but when I saw that, I thought "Ki this is the way I can help him to self-regulate." So it started off and it did help him.
Right. We are so glad to hear that Star Walkers have been of great help to you.
They
And
have
I
been catalyst in the change which happened for Shashwat.
True, very true. And I think that is what we believe in at Star Walkers. For us, it's the child who actually is more important. That is what we focus more on. We want the children, for us, we want us, the elders, to follow the child. Child-led therapy is
Child-led.
something that we focus
Exactly.
on. Because it's
Exactly.
very easy to, force a child to get and do something that we wanted the way we want. But then following the child and learning through that journey is something which is very important. And I think that is
Yeah.
what your journey has been so well.
Yeah.
And the best thing is that you started it in a later part, but you didn't give up on that. That was more
Yeah.
important. So
Yeah.
any time is a good time to start. I think that's what the
Exactly.
moral of
There's
the
no
story
time.
would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no time to start, no time frame. Let your child do things at their own pace. Don't give up on them. Be their first person to, and the person who would always believe in them. That is the first thing I would like to tell every parent. Be there for your child. They don't have anybody else other than you. So you just believe in them, presume competence in your child.
True, true. We have one more question here. In spite of preparations, what was biggest challenge in puberty?
Puberty is like the emotional dysregulation was something like you would see the mood swings, sudden crying. So that was difficult to explain even through visuals, like because it's very subjective what you're going through emotionally. And also the public-private behaviors had to be taught quite in a couple of times. The public behavior, the private behavior, the public place, understanding the need for privacy, asking for it. That took a little time to teach. And the emotional dysregulation, we're still on the purpose. Ki we are just trying to teach him that it's okay. When you feel like that, you can ask for help and ask for your adult, safe people to be with you to help you calm down. So that is something still work in progress because his puberty hit very late. So I had the time. His puberty hit late because I put him on a diet where he had no outside food like packeted foods. So his puberty hit very late. So I had time for to prepare him, but preparation helped. But still, it's work in progress because he's still going through a lot of changes in his body. So we keep retreating as a regular basis. We just discuss what we are going through and the emotions. So that is to be taught at each point.
Right. I think some things do not have a, like a end of it. Some things just go on, learning goes on in
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
You cannot just
learning never
say,
stops.
yeah, right. You cannot say, abhi start kiya ye age mein aur ye age mein band kar diya. So it's like,
नहीं।
it goes
कुछ
on and
बच्चे
on.
जल्दी कुछ बच्चे जल्दी
Yeah.
सीख जाते हैं पर टाइम
True.
लगेगा तो आपको उतना
हाँ,
एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा कि मेरे बच्चे को टाइम लग रहा है
time लग रहा
उतना
है.
टाइम और उतना उसको हमें लीवे देना पड़ेगा कि हाँ टाइम लग रहा है तो आई एम देयर फॉर यू सो दैट इज
True.
वन थिंग दे नीड द
Yes,
अश्योरेंस
time. Right. And the more important thing is to be consistent in what you're doing, not giving up. कि अरे अभी तक नहीं समझ रहा है, and then what is happening, and then running here and there for different advices, then that again creates a lot of chaos. So yeah, I think a lot of things to learn. Parents, I would again ask if you have any questions, do shoot them, and I think Ranjita would be happy to answer them.
All right. So before we end, I'd just like to thank Ranjita for doing this for us. And of course, you don't just empower parents, but you also empower professionals because there's a lot of awareness about AAC that even professionals lack. And that's where when we listen to you, we get inspired. And of course, it's so amazing to see how Shashwath has evolved and how far he has come. And I'm always so seeing Shashwat's videos and pictures. And I'm also so proud of you that, the way you have started and how you are now. Initially, it was all about prompts, it was all about being restless for his response. Like
Yeah,
prompts always lead to expectations, right? It
correct.
leads to expectations, and that's the reason why we avoid this. That's the reason why we have to fade. And that
Correct.
co-regulation, when we were discussing about co-regulation, co-regulation is how children learn to self-regulate. You
Correct.
cannot teach self-regulation in isolation. It's connected, and co-regulation is something that we all should practice, because of course it's not that easy. Especially for parents who are with them the whole day, right? For professionals,
Yes.
of course, it's easy for us because we see different kids throughout the day. But for parents, practicing that and involving everyone in, like, whoever is in their life to practice the same is the most challenging thing. So I'm really proud of you, and thank you so much for doing this for Starwalkers community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the parents who joined in today, and we hope you're enjoying the Starbucks parent webinar series. So this was the fourth webinar that we hosted, and we are looking forward to many more as we look forward to share more information with our community. And yes, as someone has just asked about music therapy being online, yes, Starbucks is all about being online for you. So if you are a parent working, if you are a parent who is very busy or who cannot take your child from one therapy center to other, we are here for you. You can always get in touch.
Yeah, somebody's raised
Aisha,
their
you're
hand.
missing Dubai's
Yeah,
Yeah.
clinic
we are
as
also
well.
offline now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are also
Yeah.
offline now at Dubai. You can definitely have the information for you. I think we
Yeah.
have a question here. Someone is raising their hand. Please go ahead. Okay, I think.
Since
Yeah.
इनको गलती से किया होगा पता नहीं.
I think so. So no problem. So we just end today's webinar with a lot of
Yeah.
positivity and a lot of
Yeah.
insights. Thank you so much, Ranjita. It was a great, great session, and we learned so much. It was
Yeah.
really good to listen to you and your experience throughout.
Yeah.
Parents, I'm sharing information about Star Walkers if you would like to connect with us. And also, we have a Facebook community, a WhatsApp community. If you wish to join, you can always get in touch with us. And of course, we are here to help you anytime. And we look forward for the next webinar series coming soon next month. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Good evening and good
Okay.
night.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.